If you have seen violence, endured violence, and did violence upon others, then you are a good student of violence. Keeping this in mind, let's understand how a fighter's psychology evolves from the age of 3 till the age of 25. 3 to 13 years is the age of mimicking. What you do is you mimic your peers, your family, your friends, your school teachers, etc. Whoever is around you, you mimic your culture. You mimic the actions and behavior of the people around you. You copy their behavior and you just paste it on the world. Then comes the age of 13 to 25 years. This is the age of experiment, meaning that you have already learned a set of behaviors till the age of 13 and now you are experimenting with it. We'll talk about it later. 3 to 13 is the age of learning and molding behavior, basic behavior. So whatever you copy from your peers, you paste it on the world. So if a person has been brought up in a violent environment, the person will understand more about violence. What do I mean by violent environment and understanding violence? These are two different things. Violent environment is something such as domestic violence. Domestic violence being violence at home, violence done by father, mother, or some other immediate relative in a joint family. Second comes cultural violence. So now cultural violence is a very important factor. Now cultural violence is all about a culture which actually rewards violent behavior. Oh, he fought this guy. What a man this guy is. I respect this guy. That is what a violent culture is, because the culture is rewarding violence. Almost all fighters, all MMA fighters, boxers, they come from this background. Almost everyone. But there are few exceptions. Obviously, exceptions are always there. Now the third point is genetics. Now, it does not has much role to play, but still it has some role. So there are genes like DRD4 gene, which is dopamine receptor D4 gene. Now it has two variants, 7R plus and 7R minus. 7R plus variant makes people less responsive to dopamine. Dopamine is a rewarding factor, a rewarding neurotransmitter which rewards the brain whenever you take more risks in life. It can be financial risk, it can be an MMA fight. So people with R7 plus gene are more risk taking in life. But the study is inconclusive because there is no such thing as genetic destiny. 98%, according to Stanford scientists, 98% is about environment. Only 2% is genetic destiny. It does not define your destination. It only adds on to it. It's like if two MMA fighters are there, well trained, well familiar to violence in all the three aspects, that they have seen violence, they have endured violence, and they have done violence upon others. And one of them has this gene, DRD4, with the variant 7R plus. Then obviously this MMA fighter will have an edge upon others, but still skill matters and strategy making matters. The amount of brains in your head matter. So let's come back to environment. So in that violent environment, if a person between 3 to 13 years old have done all the above three things, have seen violence many number of times, endured violence many number of times, and done violence upon others many number of times, the person is already a student of violence, a very good student or a disciple of violence. From this comes the next topic, understanding of violence. Obviously, if you have seen, endured, and done violence, you will have a better understanding of violence. So I was reading about Bokassa, the president of Congo, basically the king of Congo, the other day. Very brutal dictator, very brutal king. Basically an out of control psycho. He made Hitler look good in front of him. Not many dictators can do that. But what I learned about him during his early days of life, like when he was 5 or 7 years old, he saw his father getting brutally killed in front of him, in front of all the locality, society that he was living in, and nobody came forward to protect or save his father. And later on, his mother also killed herself. And from that moment, from that experience, he learned the value of violence, what fear can do. Nobody came to protect his father. Nobody tried to actually save him. And that's what he used. He mimicked all through his life. All through his schooling, he basically bullied everyone, used violence to intimidate everyone, to attain his goals. And when he became 18 years old in 1939, he joined military and became a very brutal military guy. Because he saw violence as a kid, He lived in a violent environment, violent culture, which rewarded violence. He was violent to others. He did violence upon others. And that's how all the 3 points got checked. And he actually became a great student of violence, became a disciple of violence. Let's take the example of Khabib. Khabib has been raised in a very violent environment. Let's not the domestic violence, not this sort of violence, not the Bokassa sort of violence, but he must have seen violence because he's in an area which is a terrorist prone area, right? He must have heard stories, secondary account stories. His father kept on training him since he was a little kid. There are videos of him as a kid sparring with a bear. Then comes Mike Tyson, Bas Rutten, same story. Mike Tyson was in prison for crimes and all. He was basically an adolescent kid when he was in prison, when Castamato found him. Bas Rutten, flip side of Mike Tyson, by the way, Bas Rutten was bullied a lot. In his speeches, he has thanked his bullies for bullying him, and that's why he ended up becoming a world champion. Both of them, the best fighters of their own era, but totally different experiences. Mike Tyson was one who preferred to do violence. No doubt he must have been bullied too, but mostly he did violence. There is an interview of Mike Tyson where he is threatening a man. Now he has become a freaking sage, basically. It's freaking amazing. His wisdom is awesome. He's the most wise guy I have seen so far. It's Mike Tyson. But totally different experiences, and still ended up doing the same thing, being a world champion, being the best at it. So if you have seen violence, endured violence, and did violence on others till the age of 13, you are a good student of violence, a disciple of violence. And if you have done a good MMA training along with it, then you are a great fighter. You are a master of fight. You are a devotee of violence. So what happens after the age of 13? From the age of 13 up till the age of 25, I'm going to talk about it on my next video, the age of experiment. Thank you.